Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this licensing subcommittee on Wednesday, the 27th of March. I'll now get the panel to introduce themselves. My name is Councillor Emma Parker, and I represent Puddletown and Lower Winterbourne Ward.
Good afternoon, I'm Councillor Sarah Williams, Bridport Ward.
And I'm Councillor Brian Heatley from Robbell and Wyke in Weymouth.
Thank you, councillors. Before I go around the room for everybody to introduce themselves, can I have an election of chairman for this committee this afternoon, please?
Hello, yeah, I'm happy to elect Emma Parker as chair for this committee.
And I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. I will now go around the room for introductions to ensure that I've got everybody here that I've got on my list. So I will start with our Democratic Service Officers.
John Miles, Democratic Services. I'll be taking the minutes for this meeting. Thank you.
Lindsay Watson, Democratic Services, doing the hybrid for the meeting.
Thank you. And I will now go on to my Licensing Officer.
Thank you, Chair. Aileen Powell, Licensing Team Leader, and I will be presenting this report.
Thank you very much. Now our Legal Representative.
I'm Lara Autry from Legal Services.
Thank you. And I will now move on to the applicant.
I'm Jordan Tillman, the applicant and Director of Smoke on Water Limited.
Thank you and welcome this afternoon. And I will now move on to those that have made representations.
My name's Georgina Codd and I'm a Swanage resident who's objected to some aspects of the licence application.
Thank you very much. That's everybody that I have on my list, so thank you. Do we have any apologies?
An apology for absence received from Councillor Paul Howison, substituted by Councillor Brian Heatley. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any declarations of interest for this application? No. No. Okay, thank you. Do we have any urgent items?
No urgent items, thank you.
And we have no exempt business? Okay, thank you. I will now go to our licensing team leader, Aileen Powell, and Aileen will outline the report for us. Aileen, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't intend to repeat anything that's already in the report, as I know you will have read it all. So this is an application for a restaurant bar on the outskirts of Swanage, on the edge of Swanage. You have had some supplementary information. That information was to remove all the non-standard hours from the application, so we are now just considering the sale of alcohol on and off the premises from 9 in the morning till 2300 at night. It was also just to agree the set of conditions that officers felt were consistent with the operating schedule, so you have that in the pack as well, and that has been agreed. It went out for statutory consultation. We had no statutory authority making any representations. We have had one representation from a member of the public, Ms Codd, who is here. The Town Council did consider the application, but they made no objection at all. The report explains the Live Music Act and how the supply of music, both live or recorded, is automatically allowed on any licence with on-sales. And any condition that would relate to music, even if it were to be put on the licence, could not apply during those times. As you are aware, and just for everybody else's sake, should this licence ever be reviewed, then that would be the opportunity to stick those conditions on and disapply the disapplication of the Live Music Act. We're in double negative territory there, for which I do apologise. It is now for you to hear from both parties, the applicant and the person who has made a representation, and make the decision that you deem to be appropriate in this particular set of circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for Aileen with regards to the report? I only had one, and that was with regards to any withdrawn representation, and obviously we've had no comment from any of the responsible authorities. Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions for Aileen with regards to the report? No? Okay. Ms Codd, do you have any questions for Aileen with regards to the report?
I don't have questions. I wrote a short statement, but I don't know if there is a space to read it. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I will now move on to the applicant. Is there anything else that you would like to add to what we've already got in front of us today?
Nope, don't think so. Nothing.
That's okay, thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for the applicant at this stage?
No.
Do you have any questions for the applicant, Brian?
Could you tell us a bit more about what kind of clientele and so on you're expecting and you're marketing towards for this? The application is a bit bare of that kind of content.
So it's going to be a smokehouse and restaurant, so specialising in like American style smoked meats and served in a sharing style way. So you don't get your traditional meat and two veg dish. You would turn up with a group of friends and have a tray of food to share amongst yourselves and enjoy a nice bottle of wine or nice local beers and ales and ciders. We're not really targeting to any specific group of people. It's open for anyone, literally everyone, so anyone's welcome. Anything else you have to ask for that?
And you're also applying for an off licence as well as for a licence for consumption on the premises. How important a part of your business is that likely to be?
It's not crucial. It would be quite important to us, but not crucial. It's more for the fact of if you come in for an evening and you're enjoying the wine that you can't buy elsewhere, perhaps you want to take a bottle home with you, or to go off to the pier and enjoy a nice takeaway glass of beer or cider. But yeah, it's not integral at all.
Okay, thank you. Have you been in this trade for long?
Yes, so around 12 years in the catering trade. My partners also minimum of 10 years each, and there's 3 partners, so 40 years experience between us, so quite a long time. And we're all long-standing Swanage residents, always. Particularly me, my brother Matthew and sister Sarah have born and grown up in Swanage our whole lives, so we know the area very well and try and give back as much as we can.
With regards to the premises itself, what will the capacity of the premises be?
So inside seating, we're looking at around 35 to 40 seats. We're not completely set on that yet because we haven't actually bought the furniture for it because we're currently building the restaurant. So it depends on what's available to us. And then outside on the terrace area, we're looking at, again, 40 seats. So total, approximately 80.
And with the fact that obviously it's a smokehouse, I take it you're going to have a bar area there so people will be invited in just to have a drink, or is it the fact that they will have to come and drink and have something to eat?
No, so we'll have a separate bar area on one end where people can come in and just enjoy a drink and perhaps stay for a meal. So it's not limited in either area. You can come in and sit for drinks and then just sit for food if you wish.
That's great, thank you. I don't have any further questions at the moment. Thank you. Councillor Williams, have you got any questions?
Not at the moment. I might come back later.
Anything from you? Okay, thank you. Aileen, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Ms. Codd, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No further questions, no, just the statement.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms Codd, I'll now come over to you as you've made your representation. Is there anything that you would like to add to what we've already got in front of us?
So I know we've all got other things to do today, and I will try and keep it brief while also summarising the kind of main points for me. But to give a broad overview and explain more of the context, I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with Swanage here, although obviously the applicant is very much. It's a very much loved town, prized by families, residents and tourists for being peaceful and fairly old-fashioned in nature. The venue under discussion is located in an especially quiet and peaceful part of town. It's within a residential building, and that area itself draws local residents and families the whole year round. It wouldn't be the only licensed premises in that area, but the terms of the license that are being sought here appear to be quite different from what is in place nearby. For instance, the closest licensed neighbour is a seafood restaurant, which is often closed throughout winter. That offers food and drink from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. And on the pier, there's a cafe and bistro, which is typically open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Both of them have outside seating, as this premises would, though neither one plays external music, either live or recorded. So peace is generally quite well preserved around there. They're also closing up to 7 hours earlier than the times that Smoke on the Water is requesting. The terms of the proposal, as it stands, risk compromising that peace and quiet by seeking licensing from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week all year, which, as we've discussed, would permit the playing of live and recorded music. There's a few reasons those hours are a concern. I know other residents objected, but that their objections didn't meet the criteria for inclusion at this stage. But as I referenced in my email, within 50 metres of the venue is a new sanctuary garden being created by CanCare Purbeck, which is a cancer charity. Their secretary was quoted in Swanage News earlier this year saying, "We see this being a beautiful spot which can be a place for quiet reflection, as well as being something which will benefit the whole community." The wider green space of Prince Albert Gardens, which is also behind the premises, is generally used for peace and reflection often. It's used by families and for picnics as well. There are some memorials there. It's abutted by Peveril Point and the Downs Nature Reserve, so it is a special area. So that's behind the venue. And then a few steps in front, you've got a quiet, dog-friendly beach, which is used by families, children and pets all year round, as well as Swanage Rowing Club, who moor there. I see that there are some risks with the licence as it stands, that there could be a negative impact on the tranquility and character of the area due to noise pollution, potentially, by the premises proposed opening hours. Another big concern is the impact of the licence's takeaway element, so the off-licence element, and the proposal for a smoking area, or as I've heard, up to 40 being able to sit outside, and potentially, I suppose, all could smoke if they wanted to. We already do struggle with litter in Swanage, which is exacerbated by takeaway purchases and the irresponsible disposal of cigarette butts. I don't want to repeat what I've said in my emails already, because you've obviously already read that and seen that. But yes, those concerns about compostable packaging, even those cause an issue. The glass, particularly, is a risk. Takeaway glass on the beach and in the grass nearby and in the sand for children who play in the area, often without their shoes and socks on. Pets, it's very popular for dogs and things like that around there. But I'm calling on the council really to reflect on the potential long-term ecological or public harms that could be caused by the terms of the licence as it is now, i.e. 14-hour-long opening days every day, 7 days a week, the creation of a quite sizable outside area where live and recorded music could be played throughout those opening hours, the creation of a smoking area in a part of town where clean air is one of its greatest assets and where cigarette disposal can cause damage to the environment. And the selling of takeaway alcohol in disposable containers, whether that's glass, compostable, etc. Those are the key sticking points here as I see them. And I'm asking the council to address those points as part of this process, if possible, to help fulfil your role in helping protect the local area. And just one last thing, without adding restrictions perhaps to the licence today, I do feel the council is effectively, could be giving the applicant carte blanche to allow smoking, drinking and the playing of intrusive music outside the premises for up to 14 hours every day, beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, in a part of town that's not only peacefully recreational but residential, and that there's thus a risk in damaging the character of the area for the application as it stands now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions?
Ms. Todd, to refuse a licence like this, we've got to use the standard reasons that come from the Licensing Act. Now, I think the main area that you've been talking about that will come under that Act is public nuisance. That is the essence of your case. On the other hand, you've talked a lot about the character and tranquility of the area, and I don't think it amounts to a public nuisance just to alter that a bit. What do you think is the most important public nuisance issue here?
It's very hard to pick a favourite public nuisance. I'd say the biggest concerns, I think, are dual, which is the noise and the litter, and it is as I've said, it is you can see the entrance to the new premises from the Sanctuary Garden, and I think with 40 people out, up to 40 people out on a terrace until 11 o'clock at night every day of the year, I think that is it's unusual for a premises in that area, in that part of town. And I have concerns about that, and environmental concerns, as I've said.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I don't have any questions at the moment. Do you have any questions?
Not questions, no, but a few defences, I suppose, is the word for it. Comebacks to your points. Is now the time to do those, or is there a later stage for that?
I would say, as we've got no questions, are you happy for Mr. Tillman to pick up on some of the comments you made? I think it might be easier if we've got no direct. This time, I generally have it just as questions, which form as an answer. But I think it might be better if there can be comments made back, if that's okay with you. Yeah. Okay.
So obviously, having lived in Swanage my whole life, I obviously love the place and agree that it's a beautiful place, and we wouldn't want it to ruin that in any way. It's not our goal at all. And we appreciate the Sanctuary Garden. It's stunning. We're able to watch the building work of it currently. It's really nice to see it come together. And we don't want to clash with that, really. We'd like to quite almost tie into it. So if you want to visit the garden, and then you can have a nice stroll down and enjoy the views whilst having a glass of wine or a beer and perhaps a meal. In regards to the music, we don't have any plans to play outside music, and it's just something that we want there potentially in the future, especially for blues weekend, jazz festival, things like that, so that we can support local acts, perhaps have a live band out on the terrace with, certainly not amplified, mainly acoustic, just to support those and give those a chance to develop as well. We don't have any speakers going outside at all. They're all internal, and it's not music to. We're not a music venue. We won't be playing music to go there and listen to and dance to and party to. It's just background music for your meal, like most restaurants do. It certainly won't be loud because we want people to talk comfortably rather than shouting over music and have nice conversations. Opening hours, we have put those hours so that we don't have to change the license. Our current planned opening times are 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. But what we're cautious of is if someone comes in at 5 to 10, we then won't be able to serve them alcohol for their whole meal. And we don't want to say, yes, you can come in and have a table, but sorry, you won't be able to drink in 10 minutes. That sort of ruins their experience as such. But we certainly won't be open until 11 every day. Again, it was just something that we put in so that we didn't have to change, because these things cost money and a lot of time. And in terms of it being a quiet and peaceful area, I appreciate that there are aspects of the area that are, and you referenced that the closest venue was the seafood restaurant, which is, I appreciate it's the same building, essentially, but I personally think the closest venue would be the bar directly next door, who are, I believe, licensed until 2 or 3 a.m. as a late night venue, and they have turned it into almost a nightclub recently. So we think they're probably the closest place to us, which we don't necessarily agree with. We don't want to cause nuisance or anything. And in regards to the smoking area, we by no means want to encourage smoking, but we appreciate that people do, and we thought we would try and be responsible for combating some of the waste by providing this smoking area. So we'd put a bin for cigarette butts and everything, which we would then pay to get removed as often as we need to, so that we can sort of combat the problem of people littering, because I personally dislike it as much as you do. I think it's horrible. I don't like walking down the street and seeing it. I don't like smelling it. I certainly don't want to encourage it in my restaurant, but we appreciate excuse me, we appreciate that people do, and we can't stop that. I think that's it.
Thank you. Does that go some way to answering some of the concerns you have? Not saying that it alleviates your concerns, but, you know, to answer some of your concerns that you had.
It's obviously always encouraging to hear someone who obviously values the town as well. I think my concern is, I mean, if it was a restaurant full of you and your family, I'm sure there'd be no issue. I think that it's very, when you're opening a place with potentially 14 hours opening a day and alcohol is being encouraged, sale of alcohol is being encouraged, takeaway alcohol is being encouraged, none of us can vouch for customer behaviours. And yes, I had that bar near you, and there's another bar or two up the street. It's not pleasant. And adding to that, although I very much hear that you don't want to add to that problem, but it is a problem. And I mentioned in my original messages that we don't have much police presence in Swanage at all. It's a well-known problem. And when you've got lots of people drinking, having a good time on a summer's night, some will unfortunately take it a different way. and there will be an impact, however much people might not want that. So that, I suppose that's my response to that, really.
Thank you. Is there anything you wanted to come back with? You don't have to. That's fine. Okay, thank you. Councillor, did you have any further questions for Mrs. Code?
I don't know if she's seen the conditions on the licence, and that might be useful. I don't know whether she's seen conditions on the licence, and that might be useful to refer.
They would have come out in the report, yeah, what the conditions that the licensing officers have said, if we were minded to grant, that they would want to see those conditions on that licence. And I believe if we were minded to grant the application, then obviously the applicant is happy for those conditions to be attached to the licence. Our licensing officers touched on it earlier, and it is worth noting, when a licence is granted, that's not necessarily granted as a done deal. Any licence can be called back in for a review. So if there's any issue around a licence, as in, you know, I don't know, say public nuisance, if there's a premises that is constantly causing public nuisance, if it's reported to environmental protection and it's reported to the police, it's reported to licensing. If there's evidence there and it's showing as a pattern, then obviously that licence can be called back into committee. The committee can review it, and their options are either to add more conditions, you can remove the premises supervisor from there, you can remove the sale of alcohol, and or if it really is beyond, you know, beyond negotiation, or the panel deem that it's really not being run to a standard, then the licence can be revoked. Obviously, a premises can also run under a temporary events notice. The only thing with a temporary events notice, if a temporary events notice gets granted, that takes no conditions that is on a licence whatsoever. So it's almost like nothing of that licence would be applicable to that unless it was objected to by the police or environmental protection. So I say that to people because I think sometimes when a licence is granted and the hours and everything else, people just think, oh God, you know, we're stuck with that. But if there are any issues around those licensing objectives, then there is certainly room for a licence to be. And that's any premises that has a licence, and anybody can call a review in, providing they've gone down the route of gathering evidence and reporting that evidence. Okay, thank you. Right, I have no further questions for the applicant or Mrs. Codd. Do you have any further questions? Aileen, do you have any questions? Okay, so in that respect, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go around and ask if anybody else has anything we'd like to add. I class this as my summing up. So this will be used. I want to make sure that everybody's said what they want to say. I don't want you to go away and be like, oh, I wish I'd covered that and I wish I'd covered that, because, you know, I want to make sure that everybody's had a fair hearing. So I will go into summing up, and I do sum up backwards. So I will come to you. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so. I think it's all in my messages, but thank you for asking.
That's okay, and thank you ever so much for attending. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. Mr. Tillman, is there anything that you would like to add in summing up?
No, again, I think I've said everything I need to say. We've responded with our responses to you as well.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you very much for attending this afternoon. Aileen, is there anything that you would like to add to summing up?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So what I will do now, I will shortly draw this meeting to a close. The councillors will then go and retire to make their decision. When we make our decision, we have a Democratic Services Officer with us, and we also have our legal representative with us, and that's if we've got any legal questions that we need to cover off with her. So you will get the written decision, will come out to you by email. Anybody that's made representation will get a copy of the decision notice once the decision notice comes out to you, and that will be within 5 working days. Once you've received that decision notice, there is a right to appeal, and you have that right to appeal within 21 days of receiving that written decision notice, and that will be to Poole Magistrates Court. Okay? Okay, I will now draw this meeting to a close. Thank you for attending.